Hello, we're reading from 1984, one of the best novels ever written, one of my favorite novels. And I don't read a lot of nonfiction, so this is a good one. It's a great one. Winston's greatest pleasure in life was in his work. Most of it was a tedious routine, but included in it there were also jobs so difficult and intricate that you could lose yourself in them, as in the depths of a mathematical problem. Delicate pieces of forgery in which you had nothing to guide you except your knowledge of the principles of Ingsoc and your estimate of what the party wanted you to say. Winston was good at this kind of thing. On occasion, he had even been entrusted with rectification of the Times' leading articles, which were written entirely in Newspeak. He unrolled a message that he had set aside earlier. It ran, Times, 3/12/83, reporting BP Day Order, double plus ungood refs, unpersons rewrite, full wise, upsob, antiphyly. In old speak or standard English, this might be rendered the reporting of Big Brother's order for the day in the Times of December 3rd, 1983 is extremely unsatisfactory and makes references to non existent persons. Rewrite it in full and submit your draft to higher authority before filing. Winston read through the offending article. Big Brother's order for the day, it seemed, had been chiefly devoted to praising the work of an organization known as FFCC, which supplies cigarettes and other comforts to the sailors in the floating fortress. A certain Comrade Withers, um, a prominent member of the inner party, had been singled out for special mention and awarded a decoration, the Order of Conspicuous Merit, second class. 3 months later, FFCC had suddenly been dissolved, with no reason given. One could assume that Withers and his associates were now in disgrace, but there had been no report of the matter in the press or on the telescreen. That was to be expected, since it was unusual for political offenders to be put on trial or even publicly denounced. The great purges involving thousands of people with public trials and traitors and thought criminals who made abject confessions of their crimes and were afterwards executed were special showpieces not occurring oftener than once in a couple of years. More commonly, people who had incurred the displeasure of the party simply disappeared and were never heard of again. One never had the smallest clue as to what happened to them. In some cases, they might not even be dead. Perhaps 30 people personally known to Winston, not counting his parents, had disappeared at one time or another. Winston stroked his nose gently with a paperclip. In the cubicle across the way, Comrade Tillotson was still crouching and secretively over his speakwrite. He raised his head for a moment. Again, the hostile spectacle flashed. Winston wondered whether Comrade Tillotson was engaged on the same job as himself. It was perfectly possible. So tricky a piece of work would never be entrusted to a single person. On the other hand, to turn it over to a committee would be to admit openly that an act of fabrication was taking place. Very likely, as many as a dozen people were now working away on rival versions of what Big Brother had actually said. And presently, some master brain in the inner party would select the version or that would be re-edited and set in motion the complex processes of cross-referencing that would be required, and then the chosen lie would pass into the permanent records and become truth. Winston did not know why Withers had been disgraced. Perhaps it was for corruption or incompetence. Perhaps Big Brother was merely getting rid of a too popular subordinate. Perhaps Withers or someone close to him had been suspected of heretical tendencies. Or perhaps what was likeliest of all, the thing had simply happened because purges and vaporizations were a necessary part of the mechanics of government. The only real clue lay in the words refs, unpersons, which indicated that Withers was already dead. You cannot invariably assume this to be the case when people were arrested. Sometimes they were realized and allowed to remain at liberty for as much as a year or 2 years before being executed. Very occasionally, some persons whom you had believed dead long ago would make a ghostly reappearance at some public trial where he would implicate hundreds of others by his testimony before vanishing, this time forever. Withers, however, was already an unperson. He did not exist. He had never existed. Winston decided that it would be enough simply to reverse the tendencies of Big Brother's speech. It was better to make it deal with something totally unconnected with its original subject. And when you're reading something like this and you're looking at how they can manipulate literature and you're looking at how they can manipulate history, um, this is why we need archives. This is why we need um, special collections, and they need to be maintained in their original forms. And if we have documents, we may have to start maintaining some of these documents in their original forms and holding them. Even books, because I hear now they took Huckleberry Finn and they changed the words, and um, they took the N word out, and without the N word all through Huckleberry Finn, it's not the same book. Because the purpose is to show how even Huckleberry Finn, who loved Jen, used that term. The term was used so much, um, he didn't even know it was a derogatory term. It was just a part of life. And if you take that out, you're taking away a big part of a big piece of the book. Um, you're whitewashing history. So I was trying to find a original copy of Huckleberry Finn. I'm gonna still see if I can get one and hold it. And maybe I have to buy some of these books like 1984 and things like that and hold it. But the thing is, you have to have a place, a permanent or a stable place to live when you're doing that. And so we're still wondering what's going to happen with the rent moratoriums. We're still wondering what's going to happen with UBI. If those things can happen, then we can start to collect these things and hold them. Those of us who care about documentation. Until next time, I want to thank you for your support. I want to say take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.